And are our friends on Zoom? Wonderful, and they can hear us? All right, I will say some things. Can our friends on Zoom and YouTube
Yes.
hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
If you could just nod or put your thumb up or the okay. Okay, great. And do you have the clicker? Okay, great. Good morning, Arlene. You'll just need a prayer book from that black cart right in front of you. Perfect. Sorry? I don't understand. Do you need Cantor's help? We just need new batteries. We'll get started in a moment. All better? I don't think any of us realized. It's double sided. I just want to make a copy real quick. No problem. No problem. We're still learning what it means to be a multi-access synagogue. We have been counting them, but we don't need to because we've got. Oh, yes, but no. In our community, I count Zoom participants in the minyan, which we actually did the last time we did a holiday Yizkor service. There were only three participants in the same Zoom. I already think Denise is one of them. it felt very different, but luckily that was many months ago. But I know that my colleague Jake Cornschool does not count Zoom or YouTube participants, and it is. Yep, that is his problem. Yes, it counts women, just not virtual participants. Yep. All right, good morning, everybody. We are ready to start. We're going to start on page 149 in our prayer books, 149 in our festival morning service. And the slides are up and running? Oh, no,
The slides are up and running. We don't necessarily have all the English in the slides, but don't worry, all the liturgy we're doing will be up there.
Okay, fantastic. Today we complete and begin the reading of the Torah. We rejoice in the truth Torah brings to our people. Its teachings are eternal and inexhaustible. They are life-giving and life-renewing. Today we give thanks for the precious gift of Torah. We love it for the depth of its humanity and revere it for its mysterious power. May our study of Torah enrich our lives and bring gladness to our people. We continue on page 154 with Ma Tovu. How good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel. 154. The other part. Just getting her prayer book. We read together on the top of 157. My God, I thank you for my life, body, and soul, for my name, my gender, my way of thinking and speaking. Help me realize that I am something new, someone who never existed before, someone original and unique in the world. For if there had ever been someone like me, there would have been no need for me to exist. Baruch atah Adonai, rofeh chol basar umafli la'asot. We continue on 160 with our blessings for everyday miracles, things we don't want to take for granted.
We'll begin each bracha in Hebrew and continue into English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has given the mind the ability to distinguish day from night. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who opens the eyes of the blind. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who frees the captive. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who lifts up the fallen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who stretches the earth over the waters. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who strengthens our steps. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who clothes the naked. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who gives strength to the weary. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who removes sleep from the eyes, slumber from the eyelids. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who made me in the image of God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me free. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me a Jew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who girds Israel with strength. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who crowns Israel with splendor. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen. I came across a beautiful teaching that was unfamiliar to me. I want to thank Rabbi Sally Presan because it was in a teaching that she shared in a Reform Movement email. And it was a core text that she used throughout her rabbinate. If you're not familiar with her, she was the very first woman to be ordained a rabbi, at least in America. Regina Jonas in Germany many years before that, but definitely by an established seminary. And the teaching she shared was Hillel used to say, the more Torah, the more life. And in Hebrew, marbeh Torah, marbeh chayim. And this teaching is not necessarily an exact equation that if the more Torah that you study, the more Torah that you chant, the more Torah in which you engage, you will live longer, but that the quality of your life will be forever augmented in a positive way. That the more Torah in our lives, the richer our lives, the more meaningful our lives, the more our lives have purpose and direction and our lives can make other lives better. And so I've been really reflecting on this concept of the more Torah, the more life. There are so many metaphors for Torah, often that are sustaining. So we think of the Torah as a tree of life, and we want that tree to have strong roots and branches that extend and delicious fruit that we can all enjoy. Torah is often likened to water. Our bodies are mostly made up of water. The earth is mostly made up of water. We need water to live. And Torah is also likened to fire. And I love how we have these opposing metaphors, but we need fire to stay warm. We need fire to be able to cook food. We need fire in order to run electricity so that we can gather together indoors at night, or at night at all, I should say, but also virtually. And so Torah is all of these things, life-giving, life-sustaining, and Torah helps us to live lives, like I said, with meaning and with purpose. And sometimes that alone can actually help us to be healthier and sometimes even to live longer. And even if we are not the ones who get to live longer, we hope that Torah helps our legacy to live on as we pass the Torah down from one generation to the next. So thank you, Rabbi Hillel. We'll continue our service on page 187 as I ask those who are able to please rise for Chatzi Kaddish. 187.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, תלמד יברח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחיי חונו ויומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן, יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו, לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. La 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 Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach. HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
191. The world is sunlight, restoring the soul, rejoicing the heart, bringing light to the eyes, more welcomed than gold, a Torah from heaven. I have no light to give the morning. My Torah, my special human gift, is words. As I bring my words forth from silence, welcome them, you who redeems the sun from darkness. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMi'orot. And we read responsively on the bottom of 193. Our rabbis taught 613 mitzvot were given to Moses. Micah reduced them to 3. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Isaiah based all the mitzvot upon 2 of them, keep justice and righteousness. Amos saw one guiding principle upon which all 613 are founded. Seek me and live. Habakkuk expounded the Torah on the basis of a single thought. The righteous shall live by their faith. Akiva taught, the great principle of the Torah is expressed in the mitzvah. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. But Ben Azai found a principle even more fundamental. This is the story of humanity. When God created us, God made us in the divine image. And Hillel summed up the Torah in this maxim: what is hateful to you, do not do to others. The rest is commentary. You must go and study it. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael, bi'ahava.
Shema Yisrael.
וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך, על מזוזות ביתך, ובשעריך. לה 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 תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We read responsively on page 201. I, Adonai, have called you to righteousness, and taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations. We are Israel, witness to God's covenant with our people. This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you will be my people. We are Israel. Our Torah forbids the worship of race or nation, possessions or power. Hate evil and love what is good. Let justice well up as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. We are Israel, schooled in the suffering of the oppressed. Violence shall no longer be heard in your land, desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children shall be taught of Adonai, and great shall be the peace of your children. We are Israel, O God, when we are witnesses to your will and messengers of your truth. You are my witnesses, says Adonai, and my servant whom I have chosen. Know me therefore and put your trust in me. We are Israel, O God, when we proclaim you the God of freedom, as did our ancestors on the shores of the sea.
שיר החדשה, שירו נעולים לשמך השפתיים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ידוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ידוך לעולם ועד.
I ask everyone who's able to please rise for the Amidah, which begins on 204 and continues on the even pages.
Adonai, שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואמהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, בחיי הכל אתה רע והושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים בחסד, בחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא פודים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממיד ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמנת לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל.
Page 212.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ כבודו. אדיר, אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Page 214.
אתה בחרתנו מכל העמים, אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו, ורוממתנו מכל הלשנות, וקידשתנו במצוותיך, וקרבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך, ושמך גדול והקדוש עלינו קראת. ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה, מועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון, את יום השמיני חג העצרת הזה, זמן שמחתנו, מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים.
You may be seated as we continue together on the top of 215. 3 times a year you shall hold a festival for me. You shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, eating unleavened bread for 7 days as I have commanded you at the end of the month of Aviv. For in it you went forth from Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty-handed. And the feast of the harvest, of the first fruit of your work, of what you sow in the field, and the feast of ingathering at the end of the year, when you gather the results of your work from the field. Next page.
אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, יעלה ויבוא ויזכר זיכרוננו, וזיכרון כל עמך בית ישראל לפניך לטובה, לחן ולחסד ולרחמים, לחיים ולשלום, ביום השמיני חג העצרת הזה. זוכרנו אדוני אלוהינו בו לטובה,
Amen.
ופוקדנו בו לברכה,
Amen.
והושיענו בו לחיים. Amen.
This day remember us for well-being.
Amen.
This day bless us with your nearness.
Amen.
This day help us to a fuller life. We read responsively on 219. Let standing corn grow ripe as dewdrops bring their blessing, food for the hungry, healing for the sick. Let the bare vines be draped with grape blossoms as the heavens yield their dew. Let oases drip with plenty and hills be draped in gladness, dressed with flowers in the colors of spring, singing your great goodness as the heavens yield their dew. Let the trees God made be fed on valley and hill, the granaries be filled with grain, the vats with wine and oil. Let every village be joyous and safe as the heavens yield their dew. Let those who spend themselves in the study of our faith shine bright as stars. You feed the hungry soul, the dry and empty heart, and fill it with delight as the heavens yield their dew. Send your sweet breeze to renew our life. Restore to its ancient glory the land of our heritage. You who are good to all, let the time of redemption come and renew our life. Our God and God of our ancestors, as dew descends, let light illumine the earth, let blessing restore the earth, let joy and gladness abound on the earth, let song resound on the earth, and with goodness and sustenance deliver us on earth. Baruch atah Adonai, Mikadesh Yisrael, B'hazmanim. We continue on page 226 with Sim Shalom, our morning prayer for peace.
שים, שים, שים שלום, שים שלום טובה וברכה. שים, שים, שים שלום טובה וברכה. חן וחסד ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל עמך. ברכנו יוצרנו כולנו כאחד באור פניך. שים, שים, שים שלום, שים שלום טובה וברכה. שים, שים, שים שלום טובה וברכה. כי באור פניך נתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, תורת חיים ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים ושלום. שים, שים, שים שלום, שים שלום טובה וברכה. שים, שים, שים שלום טובה וברכה. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. שים, שים, שים שלום, שים שלום טובה וברכה. שים, שים, שים שלום טובה וברכה.
Before the gate has been closed, before the last question is posed, before I am transposed, before the weeds fill the gardens, before there are no pardons, before the concrete hardens, before all the flute holes are covered, before things are locked in the cupboard, before the rules are discovered, before the conclusion is planned, before the closing of God's hand, before we have nowhere to stand, bless us with peace. We continue with our Yizkor memorial service on page 310.
Adonai madam ותדעהו, בן אנוש ותחשבהו, אדם להבל דמה, ימיו כצל עובר, בבוקר יציץ וחלה, לערב ימולל ויבש, תשב אנוש עד דקה ותאמר, שובו בני אדם, לו חכמו ישכילו זאת, יבינו לאחריתם. כי לא במותו ייקח הכל, לא ירד אחריו כבודו. שמרתם אורי ישר, כי אחרית לאיש שלום. פודה אדוני נפש עבדיו, ולא ישמו כל החוסים בו.
Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness and often back again, from health to sickness and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, from birth to death to life everlasting.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אחסר. בינות דשא ירביצני על מי מנוחות ינהלני. נפשי שובב ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כאלך בגיא צל מוות לא אירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צוררי. דשנת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים.
We read together in English, a Psalm of David. Adonai is my shepherd, I lack nothing. God makes me lie down in green pastures. God leads me to water in places of repose. God renews my life. God guides me in right paths as befits God's name. Though I walk through a valley of deepest darkness, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread a table for me in full view of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My drink is abundant. Only goodness and steadfast love shall pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai for many long years.
אשא עיני אל ההרים, מאין יבוא עזרי. עזרי מעם אדוני, עושה שמיים וארץ. אל ייתן למוט רגליך, אל ינום שומרך. הנה לא ינום ולא יישן שומר ישראל. אדוני שומרך, אדוני צילך על יד ימינך. יומם השמש לא יככה וירח בלילה. אדוני ישמרך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם. שיוויתי אדוני לנגדי תמיד, כי מימיני בא למות. לכן שמח ליבי ויגל כבודי, אף בשרי ישכון לבטח. כי לא תעזוב נפשי לשאול, לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחת. תודיעני אורח חיים, שובע שמחות את פניך, נעימות בימינך נצח.
Each person has a name. We each have a name given by God and given by our father and mother. We each have a name given by our stature and smile and given by our attire. We each have a name given by the hills and given by the walls. We each have a name given by the stars and given by our friends. We each have a name given by our sins and given by our yearnings. We each have a name given by our enemies and given by our love. We each have a name given by celebrations and given by our work. We each have a name given by the seasons and given by our blindness. We each have a name given by the sea and given by our death. We continue on 3:16 in a silent remembrance with our liturgy designed so that everyone can offer up all the names of the loved ones they are remembering this Simchat Torah morning. Page 316. We continue on page 318 as I ask everyone to please rise for El Malay Rachamim.
El male rachamim, שוכן במרומים, המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וטהורים, כזוהר הרקיע, מזהירים. לנשמות יקירנו שלחו לעולמם. בעל הרחמים יסתירם בסתר כנפיו לעולמים. ויצרור בצורכם את נשמתם. אדוני הוא נחלתם. וינוחו בשלום על משכבם, ונאמר אמן.
In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as they live, we too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. Page 322.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish, can be found on page 334. And if there are any names you'd like to say out loud before we recite these ancient words, I invite you to do so. Read a block. We read together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, b'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon, u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach, le'alam u'lalmei almayah, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran b'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shumaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'romav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronam livracha. May their memory always be a blessing. I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning for our service of remembrance. This Friday night at 7:30 right here, we will have a Rock Shabbat service kicking off our formal 50th anniversary celebrations. So I hope that as many of you as possible can join us. We will also be celebrating a recent wedding in our community and one who is formally joining the Jewish people on Friday morning. So a lot to celebrate this Friday night. We'll finish out with our prayer for peace, Oseh Shalom, at the bottom of Mourner's Kaddish. If you'd like to follow along, we're still on page 334, those last three lines.
Oseh shalom b'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'romav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu.
Chag Sameach, be well, be safe, be healthy. All of the prayer books can go on that black metal cart in the back. And we'll see you again soon.